Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Boro Fan TV again and the Monday Night Show with me, James Hutchinson. So, Boro fans, Boro paid the price at the weekend for a poor first half showing in the capital as they fell to their first defeat of the season at QPR. On tonight's show, we're going to look back on that encounter as well as previewing this week's cup game against Barnsley on Wednesday night and Sunday's game against Chris Wilder's old club, Sheffield United. Boro fans, let us know your thoughts on Boro's transfer dealings in the last week. The Matthew Hopp deal almost gone through now. I think just waiting on work permit details. But again, what's your thoughts on the American forward joining the club? And anything else you want to talk about on tonight's show, you know the deal. Get involved. Get in touch with us and we'll have a chat about it on the show. And joining me on that show tonight is Damon LaRoche again. Welcome, Damon.
Cheers, James. Thank you for having me.
No problem, mate. You're always welcome. So, without further ado, Damon, we'll get on with the show and Saturday's game at QPR. Pre-match, Chris Wilder made only one change at the starting lineup against West Brom, and that was Marcus Forss came in for Chuba Akpom. Was he any surprise for you, though, that there was no Paddy McNair or Dale Fry starting?
Yeah, it was a bit of a surprise, actually, that one, because I thought Paddy at least probably might start with him being, obviously unsuspended now, and then to draft him back in, but he was maybe still feeling the ankle issues that affected him in training the past week or so. But yeah, I was a bit surprised with Akpom being dropped as well because I thought he was canny at West Brom in the West Brom game. So, but only Wilder sees what he wants to see, doesn't he? On the training ground, we see the entirely different game.
Yeah. Super Reese, he's sent us a question about the transfer window, and we'll get onto that in a little while, Super Reese. But first of all, with regards to the QPR game the weekend, I mean, a lot of people, in terms of the transfer situation, Damon, are pinpointing the top end of the pitch as being where we need to get new recruits. But you can't afford to gift any side in the division a 3-goal head start. And certainly the manner of the goals we conceded at the weekend were a bit of a concern, weren't they?
It was, and it was... I watched the highlights back on ITV4 later on in the night, and it was absolutely criminal. The saying, looking at it, Zach Steffen, he did look to be fouled, but yeah, he was looking for it. I think. I just think it was a poor performance all round. Isaiah Jones had a poor game. Lenahan hadn't had the best of game. Obviously, he got that red card, didn't he? Yeah, it was just a bad day at the office, really. And it's, as I said, you concede 3 goals, you're asking for trouble. And it was the same sort of situation last season when QPR visited at Riverside. It was a similar sort of scoreline, and that was. It's always a high-scoring game when you play QPR. I don't know why. It just must pull defences, I think.
Super Reese has got in touch again. Thanks, mate. And he said second half was really promising. Just the final goal we couldn't get, but the first half was awful. One of the worst 45 minutes I've witnessed in my life. Andrew Hill said the performance against QPR was shocking. Yeah. I mean, we never really got going at all in that first half. I know Matt Crook scored just to say before half-time, but what do you put it down to, Damon, that we were so... Because you sort of expect when you're the away team that the home side are going to come out, all guns blazing, be on the front foot and put you under pressure initially. And we just never got going at all in that first half on Saturday. Why do you think that was the case?
I don't know. Is it early? I can pinpoint a number of things. Is it early on? Is it a tired factor? But you can't blame that, really, can you? I mean, they've had a holiday and stuff like that. I can't. I just think it's poor lapse in concentration. You're going to get punished at this level. Especially Lyndon Dykes, you're not going to come up against him, and then them 2 big centre halves for is it Dickey? Is it? And
Dickey, yeah.
You're not going to get anything lumping up the ball with our forwards like we were doing on Saturday, and you getting out from that. Not a chance.
Yeah, Michael Pellin, regular on the show, he's always said, "Evening, lads. Please tell me why manager sits 2 of his better players in the league on the bench." And again, I think it was noted pre-match that a lot of people, when the teams came out, had a little bit of a concern, thinking, and no disrespect to Mark Bowler or Anthony Dijksteel, but they were in the back 3, and that you knew what you were going to be coming up against, and the threat that QPR have, particularly from set pieces, Yet he decided to go with those lads, and he's left two of your bigger players, Fry and McNair, on the bench. It sort of baffled a lot of people, that, didn't it?
It did, and it did baffle me. But there's speculation going around about Dale Fry, isn't there, that he could be the next one out the door. That's what I've heard on the grapevine, and Premier League clubs are sniffing around. But for me, you need to keep your best players. I mean, we've already let Tav go. We can't afford to let any more go. In my opinion, without bringing someone in of some quality. But definitely they should have been in Saturday for me, without 100%.
Yeah. And I was just going to raise this next, but Liam Boyle's beat me to it here. We're desperate for a holding midfielder, someone to break the play up. Need Fry and McNair in that lineup as soon as possible, plus a striker or 6. I don't we'll get 6, Liam, mate, but the midfielder one, I really do take that on board, because I think from the 2 games so far against QPR and West Brom, particularly the second half of West Brom and then Saturday, our midfield seems to be getting a little bit overrun at the minute. And I think part of that's down to the loss of Tav, because, again, irrespective of what you might say about his end product, he brought a lot of energy to that midfield, and we're missing that at the minute, aren't we?
It is the creativity, James, as well. It was evident to see on Saturday as well. Not so much in that West Brom game, but more on Saturday, definitely, because of you're playing Riley there at the moment, and Riley, you can't rely on him to do it for this season, because he's more of a Johnny Howson type player, and Johnny Howson as well. We can't afford to keep his legs going at 34 for the entire season, and we need backup in that position.
Yeah, Andrew Hill said our midfield especially let us down at the weekend. One man that hasn't let us down in terms of contributions going forward is Riley Giles, and again at the weekend he came up with another assist. His delivery was a great ball in for Matt Crooks, wasn't it?
It was, and it's just evident to see how quality he actually is. I mean, he's unbelievable, and I told him in person when I actually got a photo taken with him, so how quality he was. And we've missed this at the club for a long time, especially the don't think we have had a decent winger since Stuart Downing. I mean, you've got Isaiah Jones on the other side, of course, but he's more, like say, he's a wing back stroke.
Yeah.
Right.
I think in our promotion season we had a good player in Albert Adoma, who was in the opposition at the weekend. I thought Albert wasn't a bad winger, but take your point on board, Dim. But what about this? Mark Knott, he seems though he had a good weekend in London, but he said the first 45 minutes spoiled it. Isaiah Jones, and we were talking before we came on the show tonight, do you know, as much as sometimes clubs can have a difficult second season, do you think there's maybe a little bit of a case that possibly Isaiah Jones might have the same sort of thing this year, because teams have got wise to him a little bit and the expectation is much bigger than it was this time last year?
Yeah, I think so, James. I think Isaiah Jones, I mean, they're double, tripling up on him, and they're in games, so he's been singled out, and that's where we've used our outlet last season, and it's sort of played out this season as well, because I've seen it in the 2 games we've played this season. I've seen it. We've not used Giles much on that other side when he's got the ball. When he's been free, we haven't used him. We've always utilised Jones on that side, and as I said, he's been singled out too much, and I think that's why we think we need a bit more strengthening in that areas.
Okay. David Bentley, thanks for watching again, pal. He said, evening, lads. Poor first half against QPR, and we left ourselves with too much to do. But what did you think of Chris Wilder going all Phil Brown at half-time and doing his team talk on the pitch? What did you think of that, Damon?
I thought it was fantastic, to be honest. He definitely gave him a good item, didn't he? So something must have worked, and that's what they need, a rocket up the backside, because that first half wasn't good enough at this level, and you could see after his interview, his post-match interview, that he was a bit peeved off with how it finished.
Do you think some of that, after the game in his interview, do you think some of that frustration as well is a little bit with regards to the transfer situation at the club as well? Because we'll get onto that in a little while about transfers and things like that. But it seemed as though the week before, just after the West Brom game, we were very close to bringing in 2 players. Apparently, just before that West Brom game, that hasn't happened. We haven't even brought 2 in since then. So, do you think there's a little bit of frustration growing within Chris Wilder?
Yeah, I think so. I think. I mean, he clearly said he wanted. I think he said 5 in before the QPR game. He wanted 5 in the door, and obviously that hasn't happened. And we don't know what goes on behind the scenes with Bowser and Kieran Scott and co. But clearly, they're not going to spend willy-nilly on 12, 15 million here and there and everywhere. Gone are the days of that, and fans need to get that out their heads, really, because we're looking for young youth and quality and a reasonable price, because we clearly can't go back to the Assombalongas and the Alfonso Alvarez's of this world. No chance.
Yeah. Graham McWilliams thinks that Chris Wilder is proper decked off with things, and he thinks he'll walk away soon. Certainly hope that doesn't happen. But
no, I don't.
Yeah, there is 1 or 2 people suggesting that that's the case, and he's becoming frustrated. But as we've said, we'll get on to transfers in a little bit. There's still over 3 weeks of the transfer window to go. One of the players that did come on, and it's had quite an impact, which many people probably wouldn't have predicted over the summer, is Chuba Akpom. Do you think he's played himself into the starting lineup for the 2 home games this week, Damon?
I think he has to be a shout for sure, yeah. Because I said since that lad's come back from playing Greek football, he's bulked up, and I was saying this before we came on air tonight, James. He's bulked up, and he looks a different player. I mean, yes, he won't get you 20 plus goals, but the lad will put in the shift, and it's clearly evident in the scene. He's already assisted 1 goal, so the lad can give him a chance. We'll have to give him a chance, and if Wilder sees something, we'll have to be on board with it. If no ifs, buts, or maybes.
Yeah. Patrick Wheatley, I hope you're well, Patrick. He said Akpom looks really good. And James Boyes, defo played well last game. I thought it was a shame he didn't score. And Graham McWilliams, again, maybe some people say this is hitting the nail on the head. The only reason Akpom's staying is because we're desperate and we can't sign a strike. I mean, that's maybe a bit harsh on Chuba Akpom, because I think he has contributed this season in terms of the 2 games we played in pre-season Marseille. But yeah, it's part of the thing. It's like needs must. Although on that subject, there's another centre forward who appears to be on his way out the door in Uche Piezo. What's your thoughts on that one, Damo?
For me, Piezo, he showed when we signed him, showed glimpses, didn't he? The Bristol City game when he got two goals. But since then, had a loan at Cardiff, hasn't really done it. And for me, he's slow. Yes, the supporters, I have this debate with supporters saying, yeah, but he holds the ball up, he does this and he does that and stuff. But we don't want someone who holds the ball up. We've got that probably in Chuba Akpom. That's probably why he's shifting him out the door. And it looks like a Turkish club have come in for him. So, yeah, good luck to the lads. I mean, I don't doubt he'll be a success somewhere else, but not here. He won't be.
Right. Okay, Damo. Let us know, Borough fans, if you agree with that. Another thing I was going to mention, another centre forward, Marcus Forsey. He got his first goal in Borough colours at the weekend. Brought us back into it with just over half an hour left at 3-2. But would you agree that maybe when he came off, we sort of lost our way a little bit? I know we pushed Matt Crooks further up the pitch, but we just seemed to lose our way a little bit after that, didn't we?
Yeah, we did, James. And when they brought on Albert Adoma as well, I think that stemmed because we were putting on a little bit of pressure then. I think that took the wind out of ourselves, really, and give them a bit more of an edge. And they saw the game out in the end. But for me, Force, I'm glad he's off the mark. I'm glad he's got his goal, and hopefully this will be more to come from the lad.
Yeah. David Jackson, thanks for watching, David. He said, Akpom's now one of our better players. It shows our squad is poor compared to 5 years ago. I don't know what you think about that, Damo. And Denny Rosa, hope you're all right, Denny. He said Doma definitely changed the game in their favour. I think he just gave us something to think about on going back over with regards to our forwards, it was a little bit one-way traffic before he came on, but then we had something to think about defensively again when he came on. But what's your thoughts on that with regards to Akpom being one of our better players? I mean, we are only 2 games into the season. It's got to be careful not to go overboard with things. It's not the greatest to start, but there's a long, long way to go in this season, isn't there, mate?
Yeah, I'm not saying anything about our players until like 15, 20 games into the season. That's when I look at it and see, and then if we're up there near about and to come the end of the window, if we've got a stronger team, that's when I'll start judging. Okay.
And I mean, one of those players that's going to take time to settle in is Darragh Lenahan. He picked up a red card in injury time on Saturday. Fortunately, now it's just a 1-match ban rather than a 3-match ban, but it is going to take time for him and the other new players to settle in, isn't it?
Of course it is. I mean, he was quality. He was quality at the Riverside in the opening game against West Brom, but people see a entirely different situation, don't they? When it comes to players' performances wise, but yeah, he's going to take time to settle in, as is the rest of the new lads. I mean, don't forget this is entirely different, new tactics and new system. So yeah, I have a lot of faith and a lot of positives to take from even that defeat. There's still positives to take from it.
Do you think we'll move on from the QPR game in a second game? But the last thing before I move on from it, do you think Chris Wilder will be a little bit concerned regarding Boro's away form? I mean, in the last 6 months, we've had the Barnsley game, Sheffield United, Preston, QPR on Saturdays. That's 4 games I can think of off the top of my head in the last 6 months where we've more or less just not competed and we've let the other sides rack up a big lead and we've just been really slow out the blocks. Do you think it's a case of where he might have to go against his principles for some games on the road and maybe change the way he sets up? Or do you think he's just stuck in that formation and the way that he plays and he wants to play that home and away irrespective of who we're up against?
Yeah, I think he should change it for an away game. Personally, I agree with you, James, there. But he won't, because he's a stubborn man, and given his character that he is, he knows what to put out and he knows who to put out, and we just got to back it as best way as possibly can. And yeah, I just think the away. I think Swansea. Another one was Swansea away when we lost as well. We conceded cheap goals there as well. Yeah, I just think if we improve on certain areas, I think performances will start picking up.
Do you think on the flip side of it, of the question I asked you though, that if he gets the players that he wants to get in, he'll be quite happy playing that formation home and away? It's just at the minute he hasn't got those players that he wants to play in the style of football that he wants to use.
Yeah, absolutely. Like as I said, if he doesn't get the players in that he wants, then I don't know what he's going to do, to be honest, because I can see us. It's hard to say this, and I'll quote on record. I could see us finishing mid-table if we don't get the players we want.
All right. Well, hopefully it doesn't come
to that. And that's just to say that because I love Boro with all my heart and soul, but it's you've got to be realistic, James, haven't you?
Yeah. Some interesting feedback from the fans at the minute coming in. David Bentley said that the club have got to be careful with the recruitment. And maybe the past history in terms of getting the deals done slowly is coming back to hurt us again, and maybe 1 or 2 break down. So there's a little bit of worry of history repeating itself there. Malcolm Woodhouse has also mentioned again that he's concerned with Chris Wilder being let down by poor recruitment and that he may get frustrated. And Patrick Wheatley again getting in touch. Patrick, he's also mentioned there that Wilder won't be happy at the moment. We don't know if that's the case or not, but obviously it is frustrating for everybody. And if we'd have won these first 2 games, Damon, no one would be really talking about and saying, oh, look, everything's looking great and bring a few more players in just to add to this and it'll be even better. But it's been a difficult start of the season. But Boro are not the only club that's not had a great start of the season, are they?
No. I mean, don't forget there's 40-odd games in the season, so we've got to think it's the first 2 games, And as I said, Wilder will know what he wants come the end of the transfer window, and then hopefully things start picking up over the next couple of weeks. I think there's only 3 weeks left, so I mean we could see a number of goings on. But as far as a couple of the comments there, David Bentley's put on I think he's right with the recruitment wise. I think we've got to be really shrewd and careful. As I said, we touched upon it earlier on, didn't we, about spending big money. I think gone are the days for spending big money, James.
Yeah. Well, on that subject, and obviously it looks as though the Matthew Hopp deal's almost completed. By all accounts, he's had his medical today. I'm just waiting for the work permit to be cleared so then he can join the club. But there was a rumoured £8 million bid last week for Jorgen Strand Larsen, rejected by Groningen. What's your thoughts on that? Some people are suggesting that we should push the boat out and bring the Norwegian to the club, or do you think it's a case of we've just got to move on now and look at other targets?
Yeah, I think personally we should move on from that because now the quoted it's 12 million, I think, and we lodged a £8 million bid, didn't we? So for me, I'd move on from that because look at the last player we got from the Dutch league, Afonso Alves from Heerenveen, and look what that, and it was the same sort of price, and look how that turned out, James. So I personally wouldn't risk it. I'd look to someone who's been proven in the Championship, like an Adam Armstrong. I'd rather pay that price for him, whether he's quoted 15, 20 million or what. If you're going to spend big money, you'd spend it on something like that who's proven in this league.
Right. Another name that's been thrown at the ring is Cameron Archer from Aston Villa. I'm not really sure if Villa are willing to let him go because I know they gave him a new contract last week. But yeah, he had a really promising loan spell at Preston last year. But yeah, so you wouldn't maybe increase the offer by a couple of million for Larsen? You would rather go elsewhere now? You just think that's it with him?
I'd probably increase it by 2, maybe it's 2 more. I think with 4 million apart, I think I'd increase it by 2, and if they don't want to play ball, then I'd move on. Okay,
pal. Do you think the injury to Josh Corbin, apparently Josh is out now for 2 months with a knee injury sustained in that game against West Brom, do you think that'll affect the club's dealings in terms of bringing centre forwards in the next 7 days or so? Do you think they'll try and hurry through some deals because they really are down to bare bones literally now, aren't they, in terms of strikers?
Yeah, I think it'll be more. I don't say panic buying, but it'll be more like desperate to get someone in through them doors at Rockcliffe for sure, and then it's just not just the forwards though we're thinking about here, James. It's it's key areas in the midfield as well, and possibly another left-sided centre back.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Greaves has been mentioned again at Hull City, but again, there's been an offer put in for him. So it's not as though the club aren't putting offers in. They're showing ambition by putting bids in for players, but at the moment they're getting rejected, aren't they?
They are, and it's not just that, James. You read all this speculation about we're linked with this player, we're linked with that player. I think it's 65 players now we've been linked to, and we've only signed 6 of them 65 players. It's absolutely ridiculous, and we're announcing who we're going for. I think it should just be hush, get the player in, done deal, and then that's it. And then that, because other clubs come sniffing and they steal our targets, and that's the way it has been at the club for a long time, as long as I've known it anyway.
Yeah, James Lang's got in touch with us. Thanks, James. And he said we need more quality, at least a good striker, and we need a better defence too. Conceding 4 goals in 2 games isn't good enough. Malcolm Woodhouse again has got in touch, said that Larsen looks a top prospect. You mentioned there as well, Damon, earlier in the show about possible outgoings. Now, obviously, Boro fans are concerned that the squad is very thin as it stands at the moment. But again, the rumours still go around with regards to Paddy McNair, Dale Fry. Do you think we can afford to lose any more players, Damon? Because I think we're really struggling for numbers as it is, and the season's just kicked off.
I'd say no, 100%. But this is a football club; it's a business, isn't it? So it's business is business. If you bring that Greaves lad in, if Hull want to play ball with that, but they're offering him a new deal, so it doesn't look like they're going to play ball. But if that was to go ahead and we got that player in, I could possibly see one of them going. I can't see both of them going. I could see one of them going.
Okay. Well, 7 days on, when we do our next show, we'll no doubt have further transfer gossip to talk about, and hopefully we've made some further inroads in the transfer market. But before then, there's 2 games featuring the Boro in this next week. First of all, League Cup first round action against Barnsley at the Riverside on Wednesday night. And while, Damon, this probably isn't our main priority of the season, how important is it now for us to get a win on the board, win a game, and get our season kick-started?
Well, it is. I mean, it's a cup run. I mean, as I said, I'm not bothered about the early cup run. You know, it's just, you know, I'm more bothered about the latter stages of the cup competitions. But it's money and it's revenue into the club. With it being like £18 a ticket for general sale, so it'll be money in for the club. But I don't see it being the sellout by all means. I think they'll be lucky to fill one stand at that price. I can see us rotating a lot. I can see the kids possibly using the kids like Sonny Finch.
Can he rotate a lot though, Tim? Because there's not many players to choose from, to be honest. And my take on it is that you haven't won in the first 2 games. It's not panic stations or anything, but you don't want this run to continue. So yes, it's a League Cup game, but surely it's important to get a bit of confidence into the players and get a win. Or would you say, no, I'd rather rest the first team players and, like you say, play a lot of kids on Wednesday night? What's your argument?
I'd probably mix it, bit of both. You know, youth and experience. I'd definitely give Kavanagh a run out. I'd definitely give Hackney a run out. Possibly Sonny Finch, Liam Roberts in goal, things like that, and then mix it with the likes of Paddy Dale, maybe Crooks in there. But only Wilder knows what he wants to do, and we can't force his hand and don't influence.
So. Yeah. Rob Richardson's made a fair point. He's saying the squad is maybe too thin for a cup run. Fry McNair got injured against Chelsea last year. And again, you don't want to have injuries ahead of what's an important league game on Sunday against Sheffield United. So, yeah, I mean, that's a fair point. I take that on board. So, with all that in mind, Damon, what's your prediction for the game on Wednesday night against Barnsley?
If we're playing, I can see us winning probably about 2-1, maybe.
2-1, okay, yeah. And then you never know, in the next round you might get Newcastle United, so we'll wait and see. Graham McWilliams isn't so confident. He thinks we'll get battered. I think he means even by Barnsley there as well. But Super East has gone for a 1-0 Boro win. But then the weekend is a really big game on Sunday, Damon. Chris Wilder's former club, Sheffield United, come to the Riverside. And like we say, we want to get the season up and running, but I'm sure Chris Wilder will be keen to redress the balance from the game at Bramall Lane last season, where we took a bit of a tonking and were well beaten 4-1 that night, weren't we?
Yeah, and they've got some lethal players to punish us as well. I mean, if we haven't got... I mean, our squad's, as I said, wafer thin as it is. If we haven't got the quality in by the door by then, I don't say that we'll start, but I meant to improve the bench wise. If we haven't got any, I think we could be on for a drubbing again. But I'm hopefully that's not the case, because I mean, as I said, they've got some good players. Sander Berge for one, and Dye the forward. I mean, they've got players that can punish us, haven't they, James?
Yeah. I think it's fair to say they'll be probably a side that'll be certainly targeting top 6 again this season, won't they, Damon?
Absolutely. I mean, they'll be up there for sure, and then I just hope another team isn't up there with the same sort of colour strip,
Well, Patrick Wheatley's confident for Sunday as well. He said we'll beat Sheffield United 2-0. He feels really confident about that game. Denny Rosa thinks we'll get a point in a 1-1 draw. And he agrees that we were taught a bit of a lesson at Bramall Lane last season. Have you got any memories of any other games against Sheffield United apart from last season's, Damon?
The last season was one to forget, really, for me. I didn't like that result, but I like we've had some good results against Sheffield United, especially at the Riverside. So yeah, hopefully be confident, but on the flip side of it, it worries me with the lack of squad depth we have at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, funnily enough, with Sheffield United, I always remember Tony Pulis when he was in charge and Chris Wilder was in the opposition dugout. We went 3-0 up against them in the first half in the season that Sheffield United went up, actually. So there was that. And going further back, I remember Stuart Ripley getting a hat-trick in a 6-0 win against them at Ayresome Park. So we have had some good results over the years against them, but it's going to be a testing encounter on Sunday, isn't it? And it's certainly a game where we need to turn up right from the off, don't we?
We do, because if we don't turn up, I mean, if we put in the performance, especially in both halves, like we did, I mean, I say first half, if we put the first half performance like we did against West Brom, if we put that into the entire 90 minutes into Sheffield United, we'll get a result.
And that's what we're hoping for. So go on then, Dim. You've got us sneaking a cup win against Barnsley. What we're going to do against the Blades on Sunday?
Scrappy 1-0 win.
Scrappy 1-0. I think we'll take that at the minute, won't we? Just to get us up and running and get us moving up that league table.
I think with all these results, we keep saying a win and everything. We'll be announcing promotion, won't we, by the end?
You've got to be optimistic in that way, mate. You've got to be optimistic. Well, Boro fans, unfortunately, we've come to the end of tonight's show.
Yeah.
Thanks as always for watching. And my thanks go to Damon again for joining me. Thank you very much, pal.
No problem, mate. Cheers. Thank you.
No worries. We'll return next Tuesday, so it'll be Tuesday next week that we come back to look back on the Barnsley and the Sheffield United games, as well as previewing the away days at Stoke and Reading that are going to follow. And hopefully there's a bit more business done on the transfer front involving the Boro. So until then, have a good week. Take care of yourselves. And from us all at Boro Fan TV, up the Boro.
Up the Boro.